if the biggest fortunes of the future are not being created in technology companies, but deep beneath the ground? Copper, iron ore, aluminium, zinc, palladium. These metals may seem ordinary, but throughout history, they have quietly created some of the largest fortunes on Earth. Because before the world can build the future, someone must first mine the raw materials that make it possible. And whenever a new industrial revolution begins, the owners of those resources often become incredibly wealthy. This pattern has repeated itself again and again throughout history. In the late 1800s, the United States was undergoing a massive transformation. Railroads were stretching across the continent. Cities were rising higher than ever before. Bridges were connecting rivers that had once divided the country. All of this required one material, steel. One man understood this opportunity earlier than almost anyone else. Andrew Carnegie. Using a revolutionary technology known as the Bessemer process, Carnegie found a way to produce steel faster and cheaper than his competitors. While others struggled with inefficient production, Carnegie built giant steel mills capable of supplying the rapidly expanding American economy. His company eventually became part of U.S. Steel, the first billion-dollar corporation in history. At the time of its creation in 1901, U.S. Steel represented nearly 3% of the entire American economy. But the real lesson of Carnegie's success was something deeper. Whenever a new technology transforms society, demand for raw materials explodes. Supply struggles to keep up. Prices rise dramatically, and the companies controlling those resources often become multibaggers. More than a century later, this exact pattern would repeat itself on a much larger scale. In 2001, a historic event reshaped the global economy. China joined the global trading system through its accession to the World Trade Organization. What followed was the largest construction boom in human history. Entire megacities appeared almost overnight. Thousands of skyscrapers rose into the skyline. Highways and railways stretched across vast distances. To build all this infrastructure, China needed enormous amounts of steel. And steel requires iron ore. As China's demand surged, iron ore prices skyrocketed. Mining companies around the world experienced extraordinary growth. Firms such as BHP, Rio Tinto, Vale, and Fortescue Metals Group saw their valuations multiply as global demand for iron ore surged. One entrepreneur benefited enormously from this boom. Her name was Gina Rinehart. Her company, Hancock Prospecting, controlled massive iron ore deposits in Australia's Pilbara region. When China began building cities at an unprecedented pace, those mines became incredibly valuable. The Roy Hill mine alone now produces around 55 million tons of iron ore every year. Rinehart eventually became one of the richest people in Australia. One of those metals is palladium. Palladium was discovered in the early 19th century by the chemist William Hyde Wollaston. For decades it remained obscure, used mainly in small industrial applications. Then environmental regulations changed everything. Governments around the world introduced strict vehicle emission standards. To meet these regulations, automobile manufacturers began installing catalytic converters in vehicles. These devices use precious metals such as palladium to reduce harmful emissions. Suddenly, a metal that few people had ever heard of became essential to the global automobile industry. Demand surged rapidly while supply remained highly concentrated. Most of the world's palladium production comes from a handful of mining operations in Russia and South Africa. Companies such as Norilsk Nickel, Sibanye-Stillwater, and Anglo-American Platinum became key suppliers of this critical metal. Between 2016 and 2021, palladium prices surged from around $500 per ounce to nearly $3,000 per ounce. For a brief moment, palladium even became more expensive than gold. This dramatic rise once again illustrates the truth about commodities. When demand rises faster than supply, prices can move far more dramatically than most people expect. And the companies controlling those resources often generate extraordinary profits. Today, the world is entering another major industrial transformation. Electric vehicles are replacing internal combustion engines. Renewable energy systems are expanding rapidly. Massive infrastructure investments are being made across many parts of the world. All of these technologies require enormous quantities of metal: copper for electricity networks, iron ore for steel infrastructure, aluminium for lightweight transport systems, Zinc for protecting steel from corrosion.